Cargo.
What's up? I'm Radeem from CreativeCargo. Today we are here with Robbie Serrano, a really dope photographer and videographer who's worked with people like Strings from Paris, Random Order Show, and many more. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Round of applause.
I'm Robbie Serrano. I'm a photographer, videographer. I also do a little bit of creative direction. Basically, as of recently, I've basically been doing a little more video work, kind of been primarily photo for the most time until kind of last year, I'd say. Transitioned more into the video space and have been kind of really running that recently. Working with artists, doing some visualizers, music videos, as well as kind of just more documentary style stuff with a couple artists as well.
Yeah.
And, other than that, really just been shooting as much as I can and really just trying to get it out here.
Yeah. So how did you kind of choose? So you started off in photography, right? How'd you start off? Was it a passion for photography or?
Honestly, so I feel like I was always kind of interested in photography and into it since I was a kid, but I never actually did it. Basically, all my time spent all through high school, teenage years, I was a boxer, so I was an amateur boxer. That basically took all my time, and that's all I did basically.
Yeah.
And then when the pandemic hit, gyms closed. I kind of needed something to do, so I just bought a film point and shoot off Kijiji.
True. Okay.
And then literally I bought that, would just walk around Toronto, Whitby, kind of wherever I was.
Yeah.
Walk around, took pictures, kind of just for fun. Didn't really think anything of it. And then actually one of my best friends growing up, Genius, he's a producer, so he kind of started asking me, he's like, oh, if you want to come to a couple sessions, take pics, just come through.
Yeah.
So eventually I started taking some photos at his sessions, and then basically randomly from there, things kind of snowballed. I got introduced to this other artist I've worked with, Ryan Douglas, through a session I went to Genius with, and then took photos at a session with him, and kind of everything that I do today pretty much stemmed from that one session with Ryan, because I met basically everyone I work with today. I met through that first connection with Ryan. Basically I was in a room with him, met Seago, who's one of the people I work primarily with today, met Cure, who's basically he's been a big mentor for me ever since, and he's put me in so many rooms, given me so many opportunities to kind of learn and grow as a photographer and videographer. Yeah. And literally, it just kind of happened. Honestly, I barely even realized it in the moment, and then down the road, I was like, damn, it's not really here.
That's sick. So is that, because I was gonna ask as well, so is that how you basically put yourself in music, as kind of a niche?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't starting out photography. I didn't even want to shoot people, to be honest. At first, I just kind of did it for fun.
Yeah.
I really just kind of walking around I don't really know how to describe it. Kind of taking pictures, urban landscape, suburban landscape, I guess is how people would call it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was doing. I just really wanted to do it, keep it with that. Didn't really have a desire to shoot portraits or people at all.
Yeah.
But then kind of exactly when Jesus asked me to kind of start coming around and taking photos, I was oh, it's kind of fun actually.
Yeah.
And I was oh, maybe I'll just try it out a little bit more, see what happens. I basically just dropped out of uni with no plan.
Sure.
So then I was oh, maybe I was and I was already knew I was oh, it'd be really cool if I could do photography as a career, but
yeah.
Walking around taking pictures of just random things, you're not really gonna make any money off that while it's really fun. It's cool for the art side of photography.
Yeah.
Can't really make a career out of that unless you're really you're selling books or whatever, prints. But
yeah.
So then I kind of saw getting into the music as a way to kind of make photography a career by working with artists. Mm-hmm. And kind of always, I've always been really into music, especially being around Jesus since we were young. I would go to the studio with him. I was kind of around the music scene in the first place, so I was always really interested in it. And I also kind of wanted it was always a thing for me, kind of thinking before I did any photography things, kind of oh, I wonder how I could kind of make my own space within this.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no musical talent whatsoever. I don't do any music personally, but kind of photography kind of allowed me to get into those rooms and kind of be around it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it worked. And then ever since then, I've just kind of just always worked with artists and producers. That's kind of how it's went. And yeah, honestly, I'm open to other things, but that's kind of always been my main thing since I started.
For someone that kind of wants to get in those similar rooms that wouldn't have the same connection, what would you kind of suggest, or what do you see people doing now that are sort of on the come up?
Honestly, don't worry about who you're shooting. That's the big thing. A lot of people think to get the come up, they gotta find big artists to shoot, or the hottest people coming up to shoot. Shoot your friends. It doesn't matter. Just make cool stuff. Make really good personal work. Because like honestly, for my first like 2 years of doing it, I didn't make any money.
Yeah.
I was shooting most people for free.
Yeah.
And like I was honestly losing money on most things I was shooting because like I shot primarily film.
Yeah.
So like I was basically I literally like I lost money. Like I was like paid for my own gas, parking, film, everything like came out of pocket. If I got paid for things, it was like barely.
Mm-hmm.
And like honestly, it's like one of those things where it's like you're saying, like a lot of people want to be creators coming up, and it's like it's really cool. Like it seems really fun, really nice, and it is fun.
Yeah.
But it's hard. Like if I say like you gotta really love it because like it's gonna hurt the pockets. You're gonna go through it. Like you definitely have to work another job at first too.
Yeah.
But like literally, it's like shoot your friends. Like whatever you have around you, like make use of that. Don't really worry about trying to wait for someone to like come to you to shoot. Like you kind of gotta make the opportunities yourself, because especially when you're first coming up, like as like not even to be harsh, but like nobody really cares. Like if you're an upcoming creative, nobody really cares about you.
Yeah.
Like there's a million other people that they could get to shoot.
Yeah.
Or shoot, or if you're music or whatever, there's like a million other people doing it.
Yeah.
So kind of just do your own thing. Just like you got to make your own opportunities. You can't wait for other people to make them for you.
Yeah.
And then like you just keep doing that, and eventually people will notice. Like if you make good work, you're a good person. I find people will notice, and then that's kind of where it'll start building from there.
Yeah, for sure. And so specifically on the topic of free work, actually, this is something I think about a lot. How do you kind of strike the balance? Like when do you finally say like, or when did you finally say like, all right, time to start charging?
Honestly, like even at this point, like even though now like I try not to do as much free work anymore. Like while I still do.
Yeah.
Like you gotta like not feel weird about charging people. Like it's weird to say, but like as like creators, I feel like a lot of times we do feel like weird or like bad about charging people, especially our friends.
Yeah.
But you kind of got to realize you're providing a service, you're doing all this, you deserve to get paid what you're worth. And kind of I think like making that transition I found was like I got to a point where I was like the things that I had to do, like I built up like a bunch of gear, I had all this gear, like and like things I was doing cost money to do.
Yeah.
And like it started to look like everything I was doing didn't really look just like I was like a random guy that just grabbed a camera one day.
Yeah.
It started like actually looking pretty cool.
Yeah.
And like I had people actually coming to me to do stuff, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm at this point where I can start charging.
Yeah.
But even then, like I was charging like dirt cheap for things. Like still, like you feel bad, like you feel weird about charging stuff because you feel kind of like, oh, it's just like you might feel like, oh, it's just me, or it's like you don't feel like you're at a point where you can charge people like certain amounts. But you kind of just gotta get over that and just kind of understand like you're doing what you're doing for a reason, and like you're providing value, so you deserve to like get paid what you're worth for it.
Yeah, for sure. And then so you mentioned something about like nobody really cares, right? Nobody cares when you're coming up. Is there anything that you kind of did, or do you think it's necessary to do something to kind of stand out, like beside or like along with the free aspect of it? Or
honestly, I think like the main thing that will make you stand out, like aside from your work, is like be a good person that people will actually like.
Yeah.
And like don't be weird, don't try to be too cool, try to be like literally it's cliche, but like literally be yourself. Because like I find like even like me now, like I'm at a point where I can bring other people in to like help me out with things. Like even if somebody's better than you or whatever, if people like you, if you're like you're a really good person, you're a good friend with someone, they're gonna choose you first because they like you. That's kind of just how that's how it goes. So, like I also do it's like whenever like people ask me for advice, it's like literally just be a good person. Like if people like you, people rock with you, like the opportunities will come, because like you're not gonna give opportunity to someone that's like an asshole that you don't like you're not gonna want to work with them.
Yeah, for sure. I totally get that, because honestly it is like in a game, like I feel like in the creative scene, it's all about connections, and and if it's like if people know you but they just don't like you, they're obviously not going to choose you over someone else. So
exactly.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So when you were on your trajectory to get to where you are now, was there any sort of like big decision that sort of helped you along your career, or like whether it was like making a portfolio or shooting a certain way, or a big jump in terms of like getting like some sort of gear? Was there anything like in that kind of
like in terms of like a big decision, like I would say like there wasn't like one like really big decision, and again like another cliche, but like honestly like trusting my own vision. So it's like instead of shooting for like, so like what I used to do is like when someone hit me up to shoot, I'd look at all their stuff and try to match whatever they do and like what they liked. But I eventually just kind of, and I would always second guess, like I used to always second guess what I did when I'm editing or whatever. I'd shoot stuff, I'd second guess everything I did. But it's kind of like once I got to a point where like, okay, people want me to shoot because they like what I do, so I should also trust what I'm doing. Because like honestly, like I'll like even still now today, but like especially when I was starting out, like big imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
like it wasn't really too confident with my own work. So like I would always just try to like copy like not necessarily copy, but like kind of like build off what other people do and kind of like mimic those styles to kind of like think what just try to do what I think other people would like.
Yeah.
But I got to a point where I'm realizing like, okay, why don't I must be doing something right if people are still asking me to do all these things for them.
Yeah.
So why don't I just trust like what I think looks good and just kind of roll with that?
Yeah, for sure. I could the whole like imposter syndrome. I could tell. I mean, in creative scene, it's always about that. But like, especially when you're doing client work and you're trying to like make sure they're satisfied with what you're doing, like I could tell. So you did a music video recently for Seago. Oddly enough, if you haven't seen it, I'll put it in the description or probably on the screen because it's a really good song and a very good music video. I'd love to hear the sort of process behind how that started. What was it like shooting and how did it become what it was?
Yeah, so like honestly, like I'm really happy with how it came out too. Like it looked really cool, but like it was such like a last minute thing.
Yeah.
Like basically, so we shot it on a Monday, right?
Yeah.
Like me and Seago, like we talked about doing the video for it like a couple weeks before that, but we never really actually planned anything.
Yeah.
But then basically on the Friday before the Monday, that's when we finally had a call to kind of figure out our plan. Yeah. He sent me a couple of references, and we kind of just went back. Like I just took like a day to like kind of like take them in, figure out what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then we kind of like figured out over the weekend like our props. So like our biggest reference is like Daryl Hall and John Oates. So like I think I'll probably get this wrong. I think they're like 80s like glam rock type thing. So like
okay.
I think it was 80s. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But so that was like our reference. So we kind of did that. So we had a couple days. I figured out a space. So we used like a space called Division 88, run by my good friends Billy.
Okay.
So he runs a space there. He let us use it for free. Shout out Billy. And then so like we had like no budget for this like at all.
Yeah.
So like we got to do that for free. Like
yeah.
I had all the gear already that we needed. Well, we literally just set up a black cloth backdrop. Got a box like a box from Home Depot, and then we used like instruments that were already at the studio space that we used.
Yeah, okay.
And that was like all the props we had. We just literally I set the camera up on a tripod, did a couple of performance takes, and like they honestly did everything. And then really tight deadline, so we finished on the Monday.
Okay.
Like we shot on the Monday, song was dropping Wednesday, so we basically finished shooting at like 7 p.m.
Damn.
Like drove back to Kilometer, like the studio that I work out of a lot.
Yeah.
We drove back there, edited the whole visualizer that night, and then after that we were like, we have enough footage, why don't we just make a full music video? Like fuck it, why not? So then basically we're like, all right, whatever. We came back the next day and we're like, all right, let's edit the whole video. So we edited the whole video in a night as well, and it was a grind, but like it came out I was super happy that it came out, and like yeah. That's how it went, basically.
That's awesome. And I'm guessing, so you mentioned you've been working with Seago for a minute then?
Yeah, so like me and Seago met, I want to say like at the beginning of 2022. We just met at like one of my friend Ryan's sessions.
Okay.
So like we didn't really work together much at that point. We were just like homies, like saw each other a lot, like shut the studio and everything.
Yeah.
And then before the first, he dropped his first single after his first project dropped, which was Standards.
Okay.
So he hit me to shoot a cover for that single. That was like our first time really working together. And then it ended up like that shoot we used like photos from that shoot for pretty much every single that's come out since then.
Really?
That he's dropped, except for like we did a couple separate shoots to get like press and other stuff for his like singles. But like that was the first time working together. It went really well. Like we got it was, again, that was super last minute too. Like we had a plan for that shoot. We were gonna shoot it at his house. Damn. But then like literally like as I was like 10 minutes away from getting to his house, he calls me saying like his roommate had a bunch of people over at the time, so like we're like, oh, I guess we can't shoot at your house. So then we like, we went to Kilometer, just we found an empty room. We're like, all right, let's just figure it out. We can shoot something here. And then like the photos ended up really cool. We got a couple of covers out of it, a lot of press photos, and like we're still using them to today. So like, I guess it went pretty well.
That's awesome. Speaking of working with artists, you also work with Robbie, right? Yeah. How did that kind of start? I mean, I think I'm guessing you might have known him before, but now he's like an artist and everything. How did that kind of start, and how did you guys start that working relationship?
Yeah, so like I first met Rui because he's like part of Good Karma. It's like a collective that I work closely with. Yeah. So like Rob Woe and Kira, they were like two of my big mentors like since I kind of started like in the creative space. Like even though neither of them are visual artists, they really like helped me grow in terms of like generally as a creative, as well as kind of running like myself as like a creative business as well.
Yeah.
And then basically, so Vinny was close to them, or sorry, Rui was close to them. Drop the gun. So yeah, Rui was close to them, so like I kind of met him at the studio, just being around them. And then like we talked a bit, but like at that time he was just producing still.
Yeah.
So he didn't really do any artist stuff yet. And then I want to say it was like the winter of 2022. He hit me saying, oh, he wanted to play me some stuff.
Yeah.
Some of his new artist stuff. I had no idea he was like an artist at all.
Yeah.
So then I went to the studio like expecting something completely different from what I heard from him.
Really?
Especially because like producing, he's mainly like a hip hop producer in that space. But then like so when I heard his music, it was like a complete left field from that. Really pleasant surprise because I love everything he makes. Yeah. And then like so we met then, like just kind of talked about doing stuff together. And then we kind of put it on hold for a bit because he was traveling. But then when he came back, we shot a couple things. It went pretty well. And then basically I was at that time too. I was still doing only photo. But then he was the one that kind of was like, oh, why don't you just start doing my videos? And I was like, oh sure, why not? And then so I did a couple videos for him, and like basically like since then, like honestly randomly, like ever since starting doing videos for him, I started getting hit up to do way more videos. Really? And it's just like that's kind of how it all started snowballing. From there I was like, oh, I guess because like I always felt like I couldn't do video. Like I always felt like I was really bad at it and didn't know how to do it at all. Like honestly, when I was doing photography, like I was like I don't want to do video. Like really? I never want to do video. But then when Rui asked me, I was like, yeah, why not? Let's just try it. And then yeah, it went pretty well. It was kind of fun. So I was like, all right, whatever, let's just try it. Yeah. And then it's kind of how it went from there.
So that jump from photo to video, like what was the biggest challenge with that? Actually, first, what was the reason why you said no to video? Was it just because you thought you were bad at it, or?
Honestly, I've just always preferred taking photos over video. It's just always been my thing. Fair. And up to that point, any attempts I've had at video like just didn't go well at all. And like I just feel like when I got into photography, like I've always been the one that doesn't really care about gear. Like I was like, whatever camera you have, it's like the camera you have. Yeah. And I always felt like video was so much more centered on gear and having like good gear. You got to worry about audio, all that. And I'm like, I have no idea how to do that work. So I was like, I didn't even want to attempt it. So I was like, whatever. I'm gonna do photos. The video's just not for me. Yeah. But then like when I started doing it for Rui, and then I was like looking more into it, I was like, okay, I guess it's not that complicated. Like, I can figure this out. And like I found it a little fun. Like it was pretty fun too. Honestly, I don't find photo and video very similar at all. Yeah. Like, even though they're both like cameras, visual, like I find them completely different. Like how I work with them, and like the transition was like pretty rough at first. I'd say like I'd say like the biggest challenge for me was like with video, you kind of have to worry about stuff that's not in the frame. Yeah. As well as like the frame moves, right? Well, obviously it's video, so the frame moves, but like photo, it's like you freeze that moment. That's the photo. But then video, it's like you got to worry about like camera movement, like the subject's moving, kind of like what's out of the frame when you're moving as well. Yeah. And then audio too is a whole nother side that I didn't know anything about going into it. So that's kind of like the biggest challenge. But I find like there is a lot of like translating skills in terms of like composition and like framing. But like everything else, like with video, I felt like I was like completely new to and kind of like, but it was like a fun new thing to learn, kind of like. Because like other than photography, I didn't really have any other like creative mediums that I really like explored too much. Other than once I started video, it was kind of like, okay, this is a new thing to kind of learn. It was like really fun because it's like I didn't feel too bad about being bad at it at the time. Versus like photo at that point, I already felt like I was like pretty well, and I was like finally felt more comfortable being able to call myself like a photographer. Yeah. So like video was something at the time like I felt like I'd actually be bad at and not feel too bad about it. Yeah. Rather than photo, I'm like I never want to have like a bad shoot because I'm like I feel like at that point I already had somewhat of a reputation, so I kind of felt like oh, gotta make sure everything's good. But then with video, I was like I'm not a video guy anyway, so if I mess up, it is what it is.
Yeah, no, totally. I could and I feel like generally as a creative, I feel like not. Well, I guess you should always care about your work, but like when you don't have that pressure,
yeah, exactly,
definitely lets you be more free, experiment. And so, did you do a lot of video work for people, or was it just for Rui at the time?
So basically, it was like just for him at the time, and then I did like one video for this band I work with, Madhouse. So I shot their music video for them. Okay. So that was pretty fun, but like other than those two, like I barely did any video. And then it was kind of when I started working with Encore Sinha, who's another artist I work with. Yeah. Okay. He got me to shoot like a bunch of videos for his project his project Bonsai. Yeah. So, we kind of made a whole universe for that. Like that was kind of like that project is probably what kind of I'd say like elevated me a lot as like a creative. I think that really pushed me to like improve a lot, because like it kind of showed me how to really like I felt like before that I kind of did shoots here and there, like shot things, never really worked on like a full project or like really like was part of like the creative direction of something.
Yeah.
But for that, like he really wanted to make sure like we created like a whole world for it, a whole universe for the album. So like we really made sure the visuals were all cohesive and kind of like centered around the character and a world that like the album revolved around.
Yeah.
And then and that was like our first time working together, me, him, and Kylie as like a team.
Okay. Yeah.
And then at this point now, like we're a creative team fully under Prototype.
Nice.
So like that was like kind of like a point where I was like, okay, yeah, we can really do more video, because like as a team we made like really cool videos for his project as well.
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, yeah. After that, I was like, I felt like I was way more confident doing video after doing those. Yeah.
You've done both, I'm guessing, freelance and in-house at this point. What are the pros and cons that you've seen for both, and which one do you kind of prefer?
So like it's funny because like all the artists kind of connected to Prototype. I worked with all of them before officially like joining on as Prototype.
Yeah.
So like the transition like almost didn't really feel like a transition to me,
okay, yeah.
to be honest. But like while I was still working in-house with them and like doing freelance stuff on my own, kind of like what the nice thing is obviously is like being in-house, they kind of just bring it to me, and then like they're like, oh, this opportunity, this is coming up, are you down to shoot it? And I'll be like, all right, if I'm free to shoot it, I'll be there, do it, and like I don't have to worry about like pitching or anything, like it all basically comes straight to me. All I have to worry about is executing it, and that's it. But like on the freelance side, like kind of like you got to find your own work, right? It's like while it's nice that's every here and then like people will come to you to hit you up for work, but you kind of like you gotta pitch yourself, right? Like you're a business, you gotta make pitches, you gotta pitch people, you gotta cold email, cold call, and like 90% of the time people don't reply to you. Just like it's tough, but the way it goes is like, but it's like at the end of the day you just need one person to kind of say yes, and then that kind of makes up for everything, right?
So you mentioned cold DMing and cold emailing. Do you have a lot of experience with that, or do you have to do that a lot? Or
I've done it a lot. Like honestly, like if you go through my DMs, like so many like bigger artists, or like not even bigger, like some like even smaller artists, like I've hit up like so many people. Just like sending DMs, like, or if I see like they have like an email like thing on their Instagram, I'll email that, or like say I see a concert coming up of an artist like I want to shoot, I'll like go on Twitter, go on Instagram, try to find who their manager is. Like I'll DM them, and then I'll like Google who their manager is. If I can't find it there, I'll like go through their Instagram or something, try to find the manager. So like DM them. Like I said, 99% of the time people don't answer. Like it is what it is. Just like literally all you need is one person to answer, and that like makes up for all of it. And like you just do your due diligence, because like kind of like they don't owe it to you to answer you. Like you kind of like gotta understand that like you can't get too like discouraged by people not answering you, because like you don't like if you were them, you wouldn't answer every random DM or email that comes your way. So it's like seeing it from that perspective, and just like not taking anything too personally, to be honest. Just like just do it, have no expectations, and if it happens, it's cool. If not, whatever, it is what it is.
Such a good feeling when it hits, though.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's like that's like I said, if you go into no expectations, it doesn't feel that bad if it doesn't happen. But when it happens, it feels great.
Yeah. Do you do more cold emailing or cold DMing?
Honestly, a mix of both. I'd say I DM more than email.
Yeah.
Like when it comes to like I feel like they check DMs more almost.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not, but like I've had more success with the DMs than emails, to be honest.
Yeah.
But
fair.
like I find either probably would work.
Yeah.
But I just have more success on the DM side.
Yeah. I'd love to touch on, because this is honestly like the coolest thing. I'd love to also hear what was the story behind working with the Random Order show.
Oh, that was really cool, because like I grew up watching their videos. That's kind of like honestly like it was super cool. Like I was in a session with Ryan Douglas, so I was just in one of the sessions with him, and then Trey and Sheldon walked in, and I kind of saw that. I was like, oh, bet, let's do it. And I saw him, like I already knew just from following them, like Trey shoots a lot of film, and I had my medium format film camera with me at the time. I was like, oh, let me just strike up a conversation with Trey, just like with this. That was like kind of how I introduced myself to him, and like made a conversation, and then I kind of ended off with like, oh yeah, if you guys ever need some photos done for the show or just for yourselves, just let me know. I got Trey's contact, and then that was like in the summer of 2022. And then like nothing really came of that at the time. Like, and then I would just like message Trey, I text Trey every now and then, like, oh hey, if you guys got anything coming up, just let me know. And like he would answer still, but he's like, oh, nothing's really happening. But I was like, all right, whatever.
Fair.
And it's like same thing. It's like advice I got was like, don't be afraid to like come off as annoying and like keep messaging people because like whatever, it's not a big deal. Like you just message people. So like I would just like every like couple weeks I'd message him like, oh, you guys have anything coming up?
Yeah.
Just let me know. I'm so down to shoot it. And then still nothing happened. And then eventually one day like one time I messaged him, he's like, oh yeah, we're filming in a couple days. Are you free? Come on down to shoot like BTS of like the podcast.
Yeah.
So then I came down to Artscape where they were shooting the podcast.
Yeah. Oh
then,
damn, Artscape. That's
yeah.
sick.
So they were shooting at Artscape. Got to shoot BTS for one of the episodes.
That's sick.
Actually 2 episodes. They shot with Waleed and then with Noel Miller.
Damn.
It was really cool. So I got to meet Waleed and Noel. So it was really cool. And like the photos came out really cool. And it was like honestly really cool. Like really full circle moment just for the fact that like. I grew up watching them. I almost felt like my like sense of humor was like big in part formed by like their videos.
Yeah.
And like especially because like I feel like anyone kind of growing up in like the GTA, like at that time, like their videos were like huge. Like everybody loved them, and it's like honestly like even after working like bigger like out of anybody at work, that's probably like the one like I felt like the proudest working with them because
Really?
I felt like the best. I was like okay. I like looked up to these guys at like a point in my life, and now I'm actually like in the room working with them.
That's so crazy. Yeah.
And then one of my boys, Sahil too, who like edits for them and shoots video for them. He eventually got me on like another gig with them where we were just like shooting some video for them, which is really cool. And like hopefully it's good get to do more work with them in the future.
Hell yeah. So wait, when you first did the photos for them and you like asked them like, yo, if you need photos, this was before you did video or it was just like you know?
It was before I did video.
Okay, yeah. I think the thing you brought up about like not wanting to be annoying is you shouldn't worry about like coming off as annoying. I think that's so important because it's the same thing as you said before where it's like nobody really cares about you when you're starting up. Like if you had more leverage, maybe it's different, or maybe if you have like 1 million followers, but like when you're starting up, or even if you're not starting up, but like you still are trying to get something in motion, like you just gotta be a little annoying, you know, because otherwise like you're just not gonna get those opportunities. But it's like you gotta strike that balance, you know.
Yeah, and also like look, and if like even with yourself, it's like if somebody's messaging you like once every couple of days or once every couple of weeks, you wouldn't really get annoyed by it. Yeah. But it's kind of you just overthink it when you're the one messaging people. You kind of just overthink it. You don't want to come off as annoying, but it's like when you really put yourself like you look at it from like the outside looking in, it's like it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah, fair. I just want to say thank you so much for getting on to do this interview. I think you gave some really useful insights for people that just want to get into the same space. The last question I'll quickly ask, is there any sort of advice that you give other than the stuff that you've already given, any advice that you give to someone that's trying to get to where you're at right now and is starting out?
Honestly, create as much as you can. Like, don't worry about it being cool, being good. Like, make bad shit if you need to. Like, just create to create. That's like probably some of the best advice I've ever gotten. Is like create just to create. Don't worry about being good. Like, I make stuff that I just make it. I don't even look at it again sometimes because like I know it wasn't the greatest, but like at least I made it. Like, I make it. It's like living on my hard drive forever. I'll probably never look at it again. But like sometimes even that stuff though, you look at it again in like a long time, and it actually is pretty cool. And so like literally just create to create. Be outside, like put yourself in the rooms because like don't expect people to come to you. Be out there. Make like be recognizable. Like you want people to know who you are. Just like by being around, because like if you're around, people eventually start to notice. Even if at first like nobody really cares that you're around, like you're just kind of like another body in the room. That's what you might feel like. But like eventually, if you're consistently there, you're consistently showing up, and you're making good work, like people start to notice, and that's like the main thing I'd say.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Hey man, thank you for hopping on.
You.